do whatever you want. I am very excited to be here tonight. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm glad you got to enjoy a screening of what I believe is the only adaptation of Dune ever made. Without further ado, let's welcome the star of Dune, Kyle MacLachlan.
Great. Oh, good. I should have Dougie. Maybe Brad. Oh, Dougie. Yes. I like Dougie. Hey, everybody. I really like that theme song, the closing credits.
It was so mellow.
I don't know. I just always, and the way they did the super. I remember when we went in and did that. So we just said, just stand here. We're gonna roll the camera. Just stand still, just look straight ahead and don't move. And then they run the thing over the ocean.
Kyle, I have many questions, but I think the most important one is, that was your first movie.
Yes.
That's not even a question, but that's wild.
It was wild.
You were 24 years old, I believe.
I think I was, yes. Yes, I was.
Can you just characterize for us your state of mind? At 24 years old, flying to Mexico to meet
It
you.
was like, I mean, there were a couple different Kyles. So there was the Kyle who had just finished acting training, 3 years studying to be a repertory theater actor. I had worked a season at Ashland. I had worked at Campus Space in Seattle. My plan was to hit up my grandparents and my parents and anyone I knew for $500 so I could go to New York, find an apartment, and start the process of auditioning and trying to get a role or a job at a repertory theater somewhere in the country. That was what I was going to do. That was my plan.
Good plan.
It was a good plan until I came home to my little apartment in Seattle and there was a message on my answering machine. Remember the old, I don't know, the old Panasonic where you had to turn the thing, click, click, and you had a little tape and all that. I think I still have it somewhere. The micro cassette. And there was a couple people that called and said, hey, listen, I got a message from a woman from LA. I think she's a casting person. They're casting Dune. And I thought, I could suggest it to you for it. There's a couple of, in Seattle, there's a theater town. It's pretty small, community. And they said she called around all these different theaters and said, describing who they were, she was wanting to meet because she didn't, know Seattle. And my name came up a couple of times, and so I was like, is someone pulling my leg? Is this a joke? Because Dune, to me, was like my Bible, if I can say that. Yeah, I was.
Yeah, he was a fan.
I was a huge fan. I read the book when I was 14. My friend Jim Longlatt gave it to me. He said, you should read this book. I said, okay. And it took me 3 or 4 times to get past page 60. And I back up. What the heck is going on? They had the same problem when they made the movie. They gave out a little cheat sheet before the screening of the movie. It was like it's kind of an excellent glossary, basically. So you're there at night, in the middle of the day, trying to read this. What's the Fade-Eken? What is it? Fade-Eken. Oh my God. Anyway, I'm wandering all over the place. So, yes, to answer your question. So that was the one Kyle was the Kyle who was prepared to I've just graduated, I'm on my way. Of course I've got this. I had never had a time in front of the camera. We didn't have any TV classes, we had no film classes. I went to LA. They flew me to LA, they paid for it. I got to fly free from Seattle to LA. I met David Lynch and I met Rafaela de Laurentiis, and then at the end of the visit, they drove me over to Beverly Hills Hotel and I met Dino de Laurentiis in one of the little bungalows there. And then I got back to the airport and I flew home. one day. So I was like, okay, this is fun, just a funny story. It's a funny story. So I had meet, and then I came back a few years later with a script, and I was screen tested for David. I stayed a little longer that time. I stayed at the Beverly Garland Holiday Inn. Beverly Garland, I think it's still there.
But for free.
For free! For free! They flew me down again for free. It's amazing. I was like, this is incredible. Anyway, that went well. And here we are. I like
You did dot out a couple parts there. So just sitting on you for a few more moments. You're in Mexico. You're making this movie.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by a really remarkable ragtag group of Hollywood legends,
Yeah.
pop star,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just David's cohort of weirdos, and of whom you soon become proud. Who took you under their wing, or who tried to take you under their wing? Who did you find yourself getting good advice or bad advice from during this strange experience?
I formed a little group with Patrick Stewart, and who was very new as well. I mean, he'd done tons of stuff at the RSC, but he hadn't done much film work.
I read he was not the original choice, like Aldo Ray.
Aldo Ray was the original choice, and the story that I kind of remember, this may be an urban myth now, but I remember David and Raphael had gone to London and they'd gone to see Francesca Annis in a play. I don't remember the name of the play. Anyway, Shakespeare. And one of the actors there was this grizzled, bearded, wearing like a fur pelt, or, it must have been a Scottish play, I'm thinking probably. Anyway, and he hair and what a voice, It's like this is Robbie spoke. I love it. So when Aldo, who got to Mexico City, David met with him, and he just had, he was an alcoholic. So and he just couldn't do it. And David said, "Hey, that guy that we saw in the play with Francesca, remember he was the guy, let's get him." Called up Patrick. Patrick's sitting in London. He's like, "What?" The next day he's on a plane to Mexico City to play this old Gurney Halleck in a sci-fi movie. He has no idea what this thing is. Not a clue. So anyway, so I take him under my wing.
And was David expecting a big burly guy?
After he tells the story, he didn't think David really knew who he was for most of the film. It's like Gurney Halleck. I don't know who he is. I saw him, because he was obviously, makeup and hair and everything, and how he was acting. You know what I mean? And that's Patrick. Thank God that he was Patrick. And then Everett McGill, and Everett had done Quest for Fire. And was a kind of a prankster. Enjoyed that very much. And so this was my little group.
Can I give my one note on Dune? I don't know if you guys might be a little late, but at the end, when you ride the giant worm,
Yes.
Everett McGill joins you.
I know.
Why is he stealing your money?
I don't know.
Weird flex. Like, you're the Messiah. And he's like, I can be the Messiah too.
The scene they cut out is me sort of rolling the worm, and Everett just goes right over. I was glad to have him up there.
Do you remember the moment, like when you got back from Mexico, this is in the can, there's still a lot of goodwill, this is going to be a big movie, this is going to be the thing that's going to happen.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it's a two-part question. Do you remember the feeling of this is going to happen? And then do you remember the feeling when it didn't?
Yeah. It was a strange, slow, like molasses river. So, because I came back from Dune and I fly over to LA and then right to Mexico City. And then when I came back, I just went back to Seattle and
Did you have a lot of messages?
the tape was full. And I decided I met some really nice people in Europe. I said, I've never been to Europe, so I decided I'd go to Europe. So I just kind of went on this other adventure, and I didn't think much about it, honestly. I'd done this great thing, but I met some great friends. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Europe. I also was contractually not allowed to work in film or television until Dune came out. So we finished September, maybe, of '83, and the film wasn't released until December of '84. So I had a lot of time to fill in there. So I traveled a little bit, I went back into play in Seattle, and I just kind of was in the weird I was in like the red room. Kind of. I was black box, I was in the red room, I was hanging out.
That's always ever.
It occurred to me, I just said it, because I said it, I don't know. Hollywood people talking the same. But what was weird is I was like, I don't know what this means, I don't know if this is going to be a big movie, I don't know what this is. And I just said, people kept saying to me, your life is going to change. You are going to be a major star. I was like, okay, great. I don't know what that is, but that sounds great. That sounds great. And and then I was like, okay, I don't know. And I went into it fairly but I know there's another half of me that was like, this is going to change my life. This is going to God, I'm never going to have to audition again. That's the actor job. I don't have to do that anymore. And then of course it comes out, and I'm not like paying for the numbers and by the phone. It really wasn't. I didn't really exist. I mean, I'm sure we could have. But anyhow, I was up with my dad. We were up. It was over Christmas holiday, and I was up back in Yakima, and I was just hanging out. And I got a call. I remember I was in his office. He's a stockbroker of Yakima. Was a stockbroker of Yakima, and I was in his office. And I got a call, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure. He said, what's up? He said, well, they're not going to make Dune 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, all of which I had contractually obligated to sign up for. Oh yeah. And there's not going to be the non-Dune option pictures that they also, 3 non-Dune option pictures that were also part of the contract, all negotiated, pre-negotiated. Thank you, Dino. So I was like, okay, so what is going to happen? He said, well, you're going to get in your car and you're going to drive to LA and we're going to start auditioning. I was like, okay, that's good. I don't like to audition, but if that's what it's going to take, that was good. But I was pretty like, okay, well, it's got a new journey. I think because I was 24 or 25 now, I was like, I still felt like, no, we'll be okay. I didn't really know what Hollywood was. I hadn't, because I figured why would I go there after I finished filming, because I can't do anything,
You're going to be busy for a decade.
Yeah, I'm a student guy. I didn't live in Seattle, I mean, like Tom Skerritt. I live up in Seattle, and live in work. Wherever they call me, right? This is great. Not me.
So, fast forwarding just a short time, the next thing that did happen for us was Velvet. And to talk about the great day of the minute she was lost in January. Did he have a particular way of reaching out to you when it was time to settle again?
He gave instructions to Velvet while we were filming Dune. So, Kale. Don't just call me Kale yet, but I just like to be Kale. That, you know where that came from. So that came from Dino. Dino, very, very strong. Hey, how you do? Pretty much like that. And he couldn't say Kyle. It's too refined. No, it's too refined. I don't know. So he said, I'm the one that's dirty. That would be a challenge. I'll think about it. I'll work on it. Give me a couple months. Anyway, Dino couldn't pronounce my name. He called me Kale. Well, they love this. He said, Kale. So he started calling me Kale. And so David did. And so his initials are DKL. So I started calling him DKL. We're just goofy, crazy kids. So anyway, David gave me the script to Blue Velvet. I read the script to Blue Velvet. Second movie script that I ever read. And it was perfect. Talk about like, whoa, King! I loved it. I think I know Jeffrey. I think, yeah, I can see why he would be drawn into this. You know, it's like, okay, the right age, had the right sensibility or whatever. I made the mistake of giving the script to my mother. My mom was quite a proper lady. And, you know, the story was great, but he had written some descriptors in there. Very, very graphic. And I was sort of in my head like, okay, I'll do fine. It'll fine, he'll handle it a certain way, it's fine, blah, 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 blah. My mom, maybe I failed to tell her that when I gave her the script. Anyway, she was going through chemotherapy, and I was like, oh God, and she didn't say anything to me, she bless her, but her husband said, and then she asked how she liked it, she liked it, he's like, and I was like, okay, well, you're just, tell not to worry, I'm not going to do it, So I just said no, I said I can't do it. And, you know, a few months go by. There's no other officer coming in. But beyond that, I was like, you know, I really liked it. So I just said, Mom, you know, I know you have your concerns, I said, and I don't want to upset you, I don't want to put any more pressure on you, but it's going to be okay. So I just kind of, and she sort of made peace with it, just like, okay, and that was good. So, anyway, so I said yes, and David was like, I knew you'd come around. He did, he was really confident that I was, yeah, he really had me in mind. It's quite an amazing thing, he really believed in me.
You wrote a beautiful piece in the New York Times in January about your relationship with David. I'm sure people here have read it, I recommend you check it out. And you wrote something that I thought was really, really fascinating. You wrote that in your mind, David didn't just invent Dale Cooper or Jeffrey Beaumont. You wrote that he invented you. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
I think it was because, well, they were our first two films. And, you know, I was young, but I was a young 23, 4, 5 year old, you know, could have easily been 78, it just was, you know. And he believed in me so strongly that he made me believe I could do these things, you know. And Dune, I said, well, this is sort of like doing a play, but it's a little different, you know, in front of the camera. And he just, whenever I felt like, I don't know what I'm doing, he was always there. He always stayed confident, sure hand, you're going to be great. The same with Blue Velvet. And the fact that he came back to me after, you know, the non-success of Dune, for both of us, really, because both of us took a hit. But he could so easily have just said, you know what, I can't work. No one wanted to work with me at that time. It was just like, not going to happen. And he said, no, I believe in him. I want him for this role. And thank God he stayed with that. And so much of, not Paul necessarily, but definitely Jeffrey was David. You know, I felt like I was kind of his guy going through the world. I was like his drone going through, you know, he's like, you know, going through this whole thing. And I got to, and same with Cooper, actually, you know. So the things that have really stuck with me and to me were created by David.
There was one particular section of your piece that I felt particularly seen by. If I could just quote it, this is you are the eye in this. I sat in interviews and on panels next to him to see him struggling with questions about what things meant. often I felt compelled to pick up the baton and talk in circles for a bit until the questioner moved on. As the host appeared from the PCFYC event, this rang very true. Publicly, thank you. But in all seriousness, in my memory of it, it was an incredible honor. It was a beautiful experience. And I don't think he answered a single thing I asked. Except for one thing, at the very end, I asked about the experience of working with people who had been with him for his entire career and what that was like. And he turned and he said, solid gold. I recently listened to a recording of the event, and I was struck by how wonderful it actually was. It wasn't stressful at all, even though I remember it being slightly. It was very kind. And my memory of the event was the vibe backstage with you, Laura Dern, reconnecting with David. I don't remember the last time we'd seen him once, but it was the most beautiful thing because instantly you were back in time. You know, the three of you were talking about where you had lived when you were filming with Velvet, and it was like being privy to a family reunion. It was a wonderful thing.
Yeah, that's, thank you. Isn't David, because when he doesn't when he doesn't answer a question,
Yeah.
he does it in a very kind way. he knows he's not gonna answer it, you know what I mean? And I was the kind of person going back to that story where I was like, oh God, you know, we gotta tell a story. We have to, we gotta answer this question. Come on, they need to know. I don't even know what I'm saying. It was one of those. David was quite comfortable.
Yeah.
And I've learned, or tried to learn from that. I'm still compelled to want to fill in all the gaps and the quiet spaces.
I appreciate that. No, but the image that was behind us that night was the image from, I believe it's chapter 17 of the two of you flanking David, walking into the unknown.
Oh, yeah.
And that was actually kind of what the event was like. The two of you sort of hoping for the press for the just to bring it full circle, I must ask if he ever talked to you much about Dune, because I know everyone here has watched it and loves the movie. It was clearly kind of a sore spot for him, and at least as far as the public record goes, he didn't really want to talk about it.
No, he didn't. I would bring it up occasionally and just say, I think you should really, maybe give it a chance. I think it's, there's, and I would couch it in terms of saying people seem to really like it. I've spoken to a lot of people that really resonates with them, And he's like, Kale, I hate it. But I will say this. I think he was coming around after many years, we did have a conversation, and he said, I'm sort of thinking about Dune, and I think he is making his peace with it, And I don't know if he was ever going to say, maybe we could, maybe if he was thinking about how he would kind of make it his own, re-edit it, maybe refix. He was at the edge of his consciousness. I don't know if it ever really was ever going to be real. I don't think it was ever going to be real, but he made his peace with it. So
That's nice to know.
yeah.
Switching topics slightly, one thing that seems clear is that you have continued a mantle of obviously being curious in your work, being joyful, being odd, and as your microphone proved recently, being Brad. I think we all need to know. How does an actor of your distinction go viral on TikTok?
I have help. I do, and they're in the room tonight. Anne, Walls, Nora, Maya, Ben. These are the geniuses behind the TikTok and the Instagram. I have a wonderful collaborative team, and they really kind of held my hand into what is my true nature is just goofiness. I'm very silly most of the time, much to my son's chagrin. Cringy is definitely a word that I get a lot. And they've helped me embrace it and realize that it doesn't have to be perfect. It could be just sort of a fun, crazy thing. I don't even have to be good at it. Whatever I'm doing, I just have fun, and that's been since we started working this. And I think people have responded, and I think they just, I can, in the work I do on film and television, I can be silly, I can be serious, and I know I can do all that. It's just fun to let the little hair I have left down.
It does seem like that it's giving you an opportunity to be comfortable in your own skin and to be the way that because obviously when you're an actor, when you're a working actor, so much is dependent on the director for seeing something in you as David did and bringing out parts of yourself that you would like to share. Yeah. This is a little bit more for your own auspices.
Yeah, and where I'm really comfortable, actually.
Do you have a favorite of the videos that you've done?
The hot dog video is pretty good. It took a little bit of convincing for me to get out. But once I knew I was going to be wearing a hot dog outfit, I'm all in.
That was the easy part.
That was the easy part. No, it's been an education. It's been a journey. I've had fun.
I personally, I only saw it today, but your Balenciaga campaign. I think it's Jamie doing.
It's Jamie doing. I was looking at that like that. That was not, that was a whole separate thing that we were doing there. I don't know what it was.
Do you take any inspiration from this viral world of TikTok, which I'm completely ignorant? Like, do you actually look around yourself and?
I mean, I'm not much of a surfer when I go on. Check a few things, but I know my friends.
Your friends like Charlie and
Yeah. She's quite lovely, actually. She's me. But Maya and Nora and Anne and Ben are all very, very clued in what's happening. And I'm like, let's go. And we're willing to participate here. So I try not to, my son will bring me stuff. It's so fascinating what interests a 16-and-a-half-year-old boy. It's just like, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when I was in junior high and high school. There's these silly things that like, you show your parents, like, yeah, look at this is so funny. I'm like, But I try not to say, that's, I just say, wow, okay.
We should wrap up in a moment, but I know not everyone here is staying for the next film, but I didn't feel it was necessary to ask. I believe, Kyle, you curated this evening here.
You talked about it.
Yes. So chose to do your first film, and then you also chose the Flintstones.
Which I thought would be my last film. I auditioned for the Flintstones, and it was the first film I got for an audition. Doing an audition, I actually got the movie. I got the role. I walked in, and Bruce Cohen, the producer, and Brian Van, director. And I grew up with the Flintstones. I understood the world of the Flintstones. What can you say? Gotta own it. Yes, and I just had such a great time with it. It was so silly. And I got to play this strange character, Cliff Vanderkay, the evil Cliff Vanderkay. And I learned a lot watching Brian work. And it was a great time. You go to work, you put on an outfit, sway one button, take your shoes off, we didn't burn our feet a bit, it wasn't so bad. The most comfortable costume I've ever worn. And I felt actually how they did a really, really good job with the remake. Those can go bad so easily, and I think this actually did a great job. And they had the B-52s.
I don't want to set anyone's experience with saying to watch the movie, but if you haven't seen it in a while, it is worth noting that the first character on screen is not Fred Flintstone. It is Kyle Split-Vander-Cave. Quite sinister as he whispers to Halle Berry's character. Want to say the name of her character?
Oh,
Sharon Stone.
Sharon Stone. Yeah. They weren't sure if I would get away with it. I think she said okay.
Yeah. So we were talking about slathering each other with coconut oil and rock sugar. And then the Flintstone theme song. You're the attraction.
Well, it's just a precursor to showgirls. I mean, my next last one, that was going to be the real last one. Man, I pushed the edge.
Just come back. We should say, here at Vidiots, we're celebrating physical media, and Kyle signed some DVD copies, Blu-ray copies of Dune. And
I can't believe they still make these.
some of you are going to go home.
I know, I'm coming back, and our director of marketing, Silas, is going to join me. We're going to give away
Microphone doesn't want me to give you free stuff. Okay. I'm going to call your name, you're going to raise your hand, and if you don't answer, I'm going to call someone else. Alright, these are all drawn at random. Our first winner is Craig Bartlett.
Holy cow, it's Cole Mohammed.
Next to you, I apologize if I pronounced it incorrectly. Lady Brugeri. Winner, Robin Hotland. Alright, we have two more. Our next winner is Clemente Estejo. Last but not least, we have Tara Edwards.
Alright, you guys are all up with Kyle and Kyle. We're going to have a conversation.
Tell us apart.
A round of applause for Andy and I want you all to stay in your seats because we have to let Kyle exit along with Andy, so please be courteous and the great Vidiots audience that you are. Thank you all again, and one more round of applause for us.